be also from the Zoom chat. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for coming.
Anytime.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting.
And let's introduce first about our organization. Our organization is IABIE, Ikatan Alumni for Habibie. It's an organization of alumni. The student was sent to study abroad in 80s to 90s by President B.J. Habibie. So that's why the name is Habibie. It's around 4,000. Mostly are to Europe and Japan. So it's around 50%. So like myself, I've been in Europe for about 10 years. So
what country?
Netherlands.
Oh,
yeah, I speak Dutch.
Bangga.
That's correct. Yeah, and that is also the reason that we are interested in the issue of geopolitics, science, and technology, because that was the reason that we were sent. And this type of discussion we already done using the BlackBerry, WhatsApp, and then in the last 2 years using the Zoom. So it's very close. But then because of technology and advanced technology, we have meetings like YouTube Live and Zoom. That's the interest. We already invited 2 ambassadors last week, Professor Yudi Krisnandi and Professor Dr. Wahid Supriyadi. Both are former ambassador to Russia and to Ukraine, and talking about this topic. And we are happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And this is an informal because we just hope that other people also watch. You know, the media is also.
Sure.
And of course, let's.
Can we know who's watching, or like? Do we have
mostly. Yeah. Are my members. Okay. So we have 5,000 members of IABIE. Okay. So people around 40 to 60. Oh, no young generation. Okay. But since we put that into YouTube and other social media, that we have the social media, and we expect that there will be a lot of attraction for people to watch and see this type of discussion.
Okay.
And let's please introduce yourself to us, your background, where you was posted before you come to Indonesia.
Should I look at you or
it's up to you. It's up to you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Ramadan Mubarak to all who's fasting. I wish nice, calm, and peaceful Ramadan. I would introduce myself very, very briefly. My name is Vasyl Hamianin, and like 30 years ago, I became the student of Kyiv State University in the capital city of Kyiv. My specialty was Chinese language and literature, and also the interpretation and translation, and then history. So after graduation, I worked in the National Academy of Sciences for some time, then did my PhD in world history. After that, briefly, I joined Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine in 2002, and then worked some time in ministry. Then in between my postings, I worked also in the interparliamentary unit of the parliament, not as MP, but as a interparliamentary department. And in some time, it was some time again, I worked for the Speaker of the Parliament as an advisor. And in between, I was posted twice in China, People's Republic of China. In 2002, 2006, and 2011, 2015. So basically, it happened like this, that when anything dangerous comes to Ukraine, I'm always abroad. It's like where first time Russia attacked Ukraine and occupied 2014.
Oh, 2014.
Yes, 8 it was for Georgia. Yeah, Russia attacked so many countries that it's countless. It's too many. But 2014, I was in Beijing. It was a great surprise and for all of us, and it was a big a big grief for people died in this attack and for the territories occupied by Russian Federation. So this time I was posted as ambassador to the Republic of Indonesia. I came here in late October last year. Briefly, we have like 40 days ago, we have another attack and very massive and very serious invasion into Ukraine committed by Russian Federation. So basically, that's my background.
Yes, thank you. So 40 days ago, actually Indonesia, we are familiar with Russia and Ukraine, but not like today. And I think also the other part of the world, that's really the daily topic of the day about what happened there. And the term using of Russia, it's a special military operation, and then the United Nations and Russia and then Ukraine says it was an invasion. So for Indonesia, is actually we know about the history, but it's still far in terms of the geopolitics. So it's still that's in Europe. Here is what happened in Asia. And would you tell us what happened there today in daily activity and why it will impact us in Indonesia?
Oh, you mean you want to tell me what happens now? Or
yes,
what happened
now?
40 days ago? First of all,
both, because it's also, we need some prolonge on what's happened. What is the reason that two neighboring countries has a war? Do they have a love and hate relationship? Do they have envy together? Other than, of course, people in Europe understand what happened with Russian Federation, Soviet Union Federation.
Yeah. Well, if you talk about the backgrounds, it will take many hours to explain what happened. But briefly, it is not a conflict. It is the real full-scale war of neo-colonialist Russian state against the democracy worldwide. It's a challenge to the democratic world. It's the challenge to the order, world order as it is. It is the repetition of the Second World War, in fact, because world did not experience a war of such scale, such intensity since the Second World War. It's like a very big neighboring country, permanent member of the Security Council of the United Nations, the country which is supposed to be the defender of the world peace and security, and having nuclear weapons and having other weapons of mass destruction, including the chemical and biological, unlike Ukraine. It attacked the much smaller neighbor, Ukraine, and the scale of atrocities and war crimes committed recently by Russian army are just unbelievable. It can be easily compared to the crimes committed by Nazi Germany back during the Second World War, but the scale is much bigger because what they did is like within 40 days, just 40 days, which Germans managed to do in months maybe. So this is a crime against humanity, general big crime of one country against humanity in general and against the nation, Ukrainian nation in particular. What is happening now? Well, many regions of Ukraine are facing humanitarian catastrophe because, for example, just very, very obvious example, the city of Mariupol with the population of about 500,000 people. Now, according to our evaluations, there are like about 200,000 people still there, still left in the city, 200,000.
What about the 300,000?
Left.
Oh, left,
evacuated or just ran, or were taken hostages by Russians and sent to Russians' regions against their will. It's again a crime. By now, we have recorded 2,000 Ukrainian children taken away from Mariupol to Russia, and we still don't know the destiny. It's a crime, again, international crime. I discussed this with a human rights defender, it's a big crime to, to take children as hostages and to take them away from the land. Now, Mariupol was attacked 35 days ago. Since 1 month plus 5 days, there is no electricity in the city. Everything is destroyed. No water supplies, no food supplies, no medicine supplies. The majority of the buildings are destroyed or severely damaged. So basically what we have, 35 days, 200,000 people or more before this are just sitting on the streets, no food, no water, no medical assistance, no heating. And at that time on the ground, it was like -2, -10.
-2, -10.
-2, -5. Now it's better, but still it's +5.
It's freezing outside.
Yes, it's freezing.
Wow.
And they don't have anything to no things, nothing. Because the Rumah were destroyed to the ground sometimes. And the worst of worst is that the city was surrounded and still is surrounded by Russian army, which do not allow the people to get access to water and food and to medicines. They do not let any single Ukrainian convoy sent to save people there.
No Red Cross?
No Red Cross, not other NGOs, nobody. Nobody is allowed in.
Basically, it was not a law or not enough initiative, because normally Red Cross proved itself useless and started cooperation with Russia in this wartime instead of doing the humanitarian missions. But anyway, no one was allowed in the city, not the Red Cross, not whatever other cross. Nobody was allowed. So the convoys of ambulances and people delivering food and medicines who tried to get were arrested by Russians and took hostages. So that's it. It's very obvious example what is going on now in Ukraine. And if you follow the news, you can see that when Ukrainian army liberated the few small towns near Kiev, Bucha, Irpin, Gostomel, and Borodyanka, they have found hundreds of people killed, murdered in cold blood by Russian army. And like murdered, it's like nothing can justify this, because people were not just murdered on the street. Many of them hands were what's the word, under the behind the back, tied behind the back, and the eyes were tied with a piece of something of fabric, and they were shot dead from the back into the heads. Many women raped, many people burned, I don't know alive or not, but many children killed, many children raped also. And many people were with obvious signs of tortures. I already gave this disc with materials to your Ketua Umum. Okay, yeah.
So you can check this later. But the mass graves were discovered now. One grave is about 300 people just shot dead and put into this grave. And this is just a war. This is now war crimes and atrocities of the Russian army against the civilian population of Ukraine, of a large-scale one. So now we understand the real face of the Russian army and of Russian intentions. If any city surrenders to them, that's what was going to happen to every city or town. That's why Ukrainian cities and towns are resisting and trying not to surrender, because this will mean death and tortures and humiliation. So basically, that's what is going on in Ukraine now. Now we still have everyday bombings and missiles, shellings of all the territory of Ukraine, not just east or somewhere. So if the Russians can call this military operation, I would not be able to find any other definition for the crimes they committed. I'm speechless with that. It's fascist regime of Russian. Federation.
To hear this type of crime probably happened 100 or 200 years ago during the war. But
80 years ago, Second World War, yes, it happened.
So today, with the modern development,
21st century,
you have
center of Europe.
Yep.
It's what I'm speechless, you know. But I know the background. I can explain you the background.
Because in my opinions, your country is like our country is Indonesia and Malaysia. It's neighboring country. Yes. We have probably some issue years ago, but actually some of the culture is the same, the language is almost the same, but there is no such of, what do you call, atrocities that envy or hate it like what you just described.
You can have disputes, but you don't have conflict, conflict. You don't have
you don't have the conflict.
I mean, with Indonesia, with neighboring countries.
Yep, in 1960 we had,
yes.
But it's a long time ago. We already passed.
Yes, but now it's 21st century. I mean, now. So I can explain to this. You know what? Some people are maybe misled or misinformed by the Russian propaganda, but the history of Ukrainian-Russian relations is the history of struggle and resistance of Ukrainian people against Russian colonialism for 350 years already. So we've been fighting.
So you consider that as 350 years against occupation during the Soviet Union and before?
It's not the occupation, it's colonial rule of Russia against over Ukraine. It was colonial rule.
So you are not came from the same ethnic group?
No. It's again a piece of Russian propagation. You know, according to the genes, I would not tell that this is medical, biological, but trust me, it was the result of investigation and research held by the Russian Academy of Science, like 10 years or 20 years ago, 12 years ago, I think. And the genes of Ukrainians and Russians are very different. Languages are so different. So we are close, very close in linguistic term to Polish and Belarus and Slovak languages rather than to Russian. So we were not brothers. We were never brothers, because when we were like oppressed and like dragged into this Russian empire, and then once and once again dragged into the Soviet empire, Soviet Union, USSR. We resisted. We tried to fight back. We were defeated at those times, like 100 years ago, right? So, but we never stopped. In 40s, during the Second World War, Ukrainian Liberation Army fought against Nazi Germany and against Soviet Army simultaneously. And then, so the history of Ukraine is a struggle against Russia, is like fighting, resisting Russia's colonialism. This is the truth. And if anyone can just open the history books, but written not by the Russians, by someone else in any other end of the world, any European historians or American or Asian, and you will see that this is like this. It's always has been like this.
So this is, I thought this is not just because of President Putin has intention to how do you call, to make rebuilds this country from outside defense. So it's really deep rooted in your cultures.
Yeah,
that actually they have.
I can explain to this. It is because Vladimir Putin believes that Russian nation is superior over others. It's exactly what Hitler declared. Exactly. He said Russians, in the Soviet times, it was like this, the official ideology of Soviet Union. The elder brother and all the small ones. That's it. Superiority is one of the characteristic features of fascism. So when the Soviet Union collapsed and many countries became independent, Russia never gave up the efforts to drag Ukraine back. And when Putin came to power, he made it very clearly in 2008 and many times after this, that he doesn't give Ukraine a chance to be independent. There is no such independent country as Ukraine. It's like, I have this all in records. It's and Ukraine is anti-Russia, and Ukraine is a threat to Russian greatness, and Ukraine is a threat to the world order. I don't know how, but I mean, this is the rhetorics of Russian president in those times. And that's why the idea was we never give up to so-called liberate Ukraine from Ukraine. I mean, basically, he wants the territory of this country, as always, wants just more territory for his Russia, and he doesn't want Ukrainians to be in this territory, like he did many times, like he personally did, and the Soviet Union did, and Russia did. Remember the destiny of Crimean Tatars back in 1943-44. All the Crimean Tatars, Ukrainian Muslims, were forcefully deported from Crimea to Siberia, to Central Asia. 100% of population.
Tatar,
Crimean Tatar. Yeah. This is the
Muslim. Yeah.
This is the majority of our Muslim population in Ukraine. So they were moved away. This a crime. This was a real genocide against Crimean Tatars in those times. And then remember Chechnya War in Russia, where Russian Federation under commandment of Putin slayed, murdered around 300,000 of Russian Muslims. And the majority of those are children and women. He just destroyed the 1/3 of Chechen people, of Chechen nation. This is what the methods he usually uses. Then remember Georgia, 2008, occupied 20% of territory of sovereign state. What is this? What is this all? Then 2014, I want territory, I want Crimea, I want Donbass, I want all this. It's just like, if you look at this, it can be treated as fascism or neocolonialism. Neo-fascism, neocolonialism. Very simple.
The term may be changed because previously President Putin said it's about denazification. That's the reason that give a special military operation. That's number one. Number two, I also heard that President Putin idol was great Peter the Great, and it's basically Soviet Union Federation back to what happened in 1960 or 1970. But then I live in Europe during the collapse of the Berlin Wall. 1990 was Glasnost and Perestroika. I think it's Michael Gorbachev was also born in Kiev.
No, don't think so.
It's not Ukraine.
No.
Gorbachev is not okay.
It's not Ukrainian. No.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to say is basically President Putin want to have what happened is glorying the old time today, and as the result, Ukraine was taken over. That's his intention. And what happened? Why in media, Indonesian media, Chechnya peoples, they become supporters of the Russian Federation. Russian
Federation.
Yeah. Is that correct?
Not exactly, because there were two Chechen wars, which lasted for many years. Many people, again, I repeat, many people killed. The capital, Grozny, was at that time bombarded by missiles, by airplanes, and destroyed to the ground. Nothing left.
What year is that?
It's I might be mistaken. 2003. Should check this.
But that's still new.
Yes, it's recent. It's after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Because Indonesia, anything was happened 1945 and 1960.
No.
After that, there is no more.
First Chechen war started, I think, in 1991 or 92. It lasted a few years. Then the first president, Johar Duda, was killed, and then they changed and they were killed. And then the second war started. And this was a real cruel war. And after this, what happened after this? Russians still could not defeat the Chechen army. They're still resisting. They're still trying to fight. And then they came to the agreement. And then they came to the agreement with Kadyrov. And as a result, Russia promised to pay them a lot of money every year or something, budgeting them and financing all this regime. Instead, Kadyrov regime promised the support for Russia. Let's say, as a result, the Chechen people who did not agree with Russian atrocities and with Russian crimes and could not forgive and could not forget, they fled to Europe. And now there is a Chechen Republic of Ichkeria in exile, government in exile, still in Europe. And when this war started, just follow me. You are a Muslim, right?
Yes.
You will understand what I'm going to say, because this was not my words. These are words of Mufti of Ukraine and Mufti of Crimea, two very respected people in the Muslim world. They told that they appealed to Russian Muslims.
Mufti is for Indonesia is Imam Besar.
It's not. It's different. It's different
because
Imam Besar is head of church,
yes.
like head of masjid. Yeah. Yes.
Mufti is like Kepala MUI for Indonesia. You know.
Yes. Kiai Hadi. Someone. Yes.
That's
Gus Yahya he's like a sort of.
Yeah. Okay.
So the important thing here is he addressed the Muslim people of Russia and of the world and say, Russian government sends you, Muslim people of Russia, to Ukraine to kill civilians. And we definitely have the chance to meet our Muslims and you invaders in the battlefield. And if you kill the Muslim brother, like invader, I will become Shahid. And you will become what? This might be very obvious for you, because Islam is a religion of tolerance and love.
Yeah.
It's not the religion of war. So if people are going to the neighboring country and killing civilians, women and children, and killing the Muslim brothers and sisters, who are they? And who is this president who sends them to such a conditions? You understand?
Yes.
For every Muslim people, it should be pretty clear what kind of crime in the religious world, in Muslim world, is committed by Putin and by those people who are coming to Ukraine to kill the Muslims of Ukraine. You know what?
Yes.
This is a vivid example of what's going on.
Yes. I think since you've been here also following what happened in social media.
Yeah.
The formal standpoint of Indonesian government was supporting the motion of United Nations, and Indonesia is part of the supporting that motion. But then if you look into the social media, I'm not deciding which, it's like pro-con. And I think you're following what happened in Indonesia. And one of the reasons because some of Indonesian people doesn't want to take a side because of the long history. We don't want to be like a Cold War. We need to take a stand. That's what happened. Then it became an issue when Indonesia currently is G20 presidency. There is some issue in the social media. Do we need to invite President Putin, or do we need to invite President Zelensky? And those type of issues, even though the issue should be more discussed, I think in October, because it's still 6 months from now. And when we invite you to come, we really hope that the peaceful process, it's still, I think it's a week ago, I understand that the peaceful process, the Russian is already take their troop, their army from Kyiv, and the peaceful process is still staged by Turkey. And that's why we are hopeful that the peaceful process, the negotiation process can happen. So what is your point of view on the peaceful process now? Still
in Turkey, you mean? Is this one?
Yeah. What happened now?
This is, I'm really not in the position to comment on the peaceful process, because this is all in media, and the results are announced by the representatives of our delegations. I can only express my personal point of view, which is pretty simple. And Yes, I follow the social media, and people just don't take sides. I mean, I think that in this situation, it's not the time to be neutral in terms of be silent, because this is not just a discussion or dispute between two neighbors. It's not like even the conflict on the border when people they're starting pushing and pulling and have some dispute against whatever. It's the real war. It's a big war. It's a huge war with hundreds of thousands of people, military people involved from both sides, of missiles and all these bombardments, of crimes against humanity. So you cannot just be silent. Being silent doesn't mean being neutral. Neutrality is something if you have the principles of, for example, non-providing the troops to fight for other country, whatever, non-providing the military weapons or something for any country. This is neutrality, sort of, or not taking sides in terms of alliance or NATO or something. Yes. No, but neutrality does not mean you have to keep silent when people are being murdered every day. This is not the neutrality. Look at Switzerland, for example, a neutral country, the most neutral country through centuries in the world, I think. So they don't keep silent. They help a lot Ukraine with humanitarian aid, with money, even with some weapons, with some banking things. And it's obvious, right? It's not the time to be silent. As for the negotiations, I would say that the main problem here is that Russia does not want negotiations. Russia does not want peaceful process, not yet. Why? Because Russian aim is Ukraine entirely. They want Ukraine. They want this territory. And that's why, how can they stop? That's one reason. Second reason, do you know that according to our statistics, it's like about 19,000 of Russian soldiers already died in the battlefield.
19,000?
19,000.
And they have 190,000 army, they said, so it's 10%.
Yeah.
I think that's what I read.
It's 10%, and it's the best ones, right? The rest are just like, but you see 10% destroyed. But they say in the media, it's like 1,000 people died in the military operation. Mm. Can you imagine if they lose, or if the peaceful process started, they have to disclose this to the people that no, sorry, it's not 1,300, but it's 20,000 and 20,000 more injured and now in there. And those people who came to the Chernobyl nuclear power station where got this radiation and now are in the hospitals treating from radiation, and the hundreds and thousands of Ukrainian civilians killed and robbed by Russian army, and they took away everything from their houses and now sending through post offices to Russia. This is robbery. This is not the military operation, right? So Russia wants to conceal this truth from their own people. Russia doesn't want the people of Russia know the truth. That's why they would never agree for peaceful, because peaceful process means stop killing, yes, stop fighting, stop shelling the civilians.
In any term that both sides agree, that is what.
It's not up to us. You see, just look at the situation. Ukraine was attacked. Yeah. We did not have a war on Russian territory. We have our territory, and we are defending. And our only demand for Russian Federation, for Putin, is to stop killing people now. And then we can sit down and talk. And they say, yes, we are ready. And go on fighting, shelling, everyday bombs and missiles and everything drops to our cities. What negotiations can be possible if people behave like this? They behave like not like human beings, honestly. I mean, people of Ukraine now, even those who had last doubts about nature of Russian soul, of Russian ideology, now they don't have any doubts after Bucha, after the discovery of this. So
Bucha is, I think, just the last news about Ukraine as genocide.
Not yet. We cannot speak about genocide yet, because genocide is a very specific term, and it should be used after the decision of the court. It's very specific.
Because
but
that's what I read on.
It looks like
TV media.
It looks like it, but we will refrain from telling about it as genocide. But it's very looks like very much like it, and it's definitely the war crimes and crimes against humanity. Definitely, it's already can be condemned like this.
Excellency, I'm less hopeful after your discussion with you. I really expect since a week ago that there will be a peaceful process. And if you look into Indonesian social media, one of the reasons Indonesia should be more on reserve position, because if you look to the social media, not that's the government it's put the motion through, I think that's what Indonesian government, but the media, because we try to balance non-block and also looking to the futures geopolitics. Let's say what happened if this is continued, the progress, there will be two blocks, Russia and China, and the other part is NATO, and Indonesia is not part of it. That's what happened in Indonesia.
Social media,
Indonesia social media.
But my perception of this is, you see, every other day of this war, not only brings the grief and sufferings to Ukrainian people, not only brings the dark future for world security and world food security, and not only brings the problem in future, big problems of ecology, of economy, of energy security, of food security. That's not only this. Every day of this war will bring the end to the Russian Federation as a state in the shape that it exists now. It will be different. And the Russian Federation, since it doesn't stop shooting and fighting and shelling and bombing, my perception is they will stop and sit down only when the army is destroyed, really, and the economy of Russian Federation is destroyed. So this will be the edge when they will say, okay, we sit down and talk and no fighting again. But this time, I don't know when it will come. Nobody knows. We hope it will come soon. So this time, they will be, the negotiations will be on our terms, on Ukrainian terms, not on Russian terms. What they say is stupid things about, like knocking down, changing the government, and refusing to use Ukrainian culture and language, just refuse of our identity, and then what? Demilitarize, meaning give up and surrender. If you want to know our position, it's very clear on this war, very clear. Just listen once again the Surabaya speech of Bung Tomo. This will be exactly the answer of Ukraine. I
live in Surabaya.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, this is famous. I listen to the speech nearly every day. And I remember like all he said, and nearly every word. You just change Surabaya into Kiev or into Mariupol or into Ukraine, and you will see what happens now in Ukraine and the position of Ukrainian state. Ukraina bersatu, merdeka atau mati. This is something that happens now.
That's correct. So it's really, the word is, what you illustrate is really happen in our country. The word is merdeka atau mati. That's for Ukrainian people, yes. It's happened in Indonesia, our declaration of independence, saying there will be no country can attack, or we need to have defend our independence. That's, I think we understand, we deepest sympathy, but at the same time, Indonesia, it's a bit too far, and let's say we are just an observers, cannot do anything, but we need to take that in bigger context on geopolitics. That's what. But of course,
it's arguable.
Yes.
You know what? The sanctions that are imposed on Russia. It's very important, again, for netizens, for people who watch us now, to understand that the sanctions were imposed on Russia.
You need to be more hardened?
Sure. But they were imposed not in order to make Russia, to weaken Russia, or to destroy the economy of Russia. Not. The aim and reason was not this. It's not the sort of the something that Western world would like to like weaken Russian Federation. Yeah. The sanctions, main purpose of sanctions, is to prevent Russia from producing more and more weapons, more and more missiles, more and more ammunitions for this war. This is the main reason and one of the only ones to stop the war. So sanctions are the instruments for stopping the war as soon as possible. The more severe the sanctions are, the faster Russia will run out of missiles and ammunition and tanks and all this stuff, and will just sit down and surrender.
So economic sanction is not working.
That's working.
No. So it's military sanction or economic sanction?
The economy is producing, the weapons are produced by the economy.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the country still having a lot of revenues, a lot of money incoming for oil and gas and everything, they feel fine. We can fight for 5 years more, just kill more Ukrainians. If they have no sanctions imposed on the everything, like electronics, like spare parts, they will still produce tanks and airplanes and missiles and everything. So the sanctions on Russian economy is the instrument of putting end to this war, of making them enable to produce more weapons and enable them to carry on with the war, because financing of the war is very important.
Since you are
no money, no war.
Since you are PhD in world history,
yes,
I learned about the game theory, what they call irrational escalations. If you put more sanction, there will be people doing more things, it's more hardened, and then the world become more chaos. And my country has to but from here, because what we want is just end everything, settle negotiation process. But do you think
it doesn't work like this?
Oh,
it doesn't work like this. I mean, if I go to the international forum or to whatever place and say, I want peace, I'm against war, nothing happens. If you go to the United Nations and say, we condemn the Russian Federation, Russian aggression to Ukraine, right? In this resolution, nothing happens because Russia is the permanent member. And it can veto everything.
Yes,
what can you have from this declaration? Just declaration, just words,
yes,
right? So as for the escalation, I don't agree with you, because this was an old theory which worked in the previous century, in 20th century. It worked, but now it doesn't, because now everything is very fast. You switched off SWIFT, and there it doesn't work immediately, like in seconds, it doesn't work. Then you sanctioned the use of dollar and euro and everything. Here it just stopped. You don't have money. Okay, you arrested. Russia has a lot of the currency in reserve in foreign banks. So just arrest the accounts and it stops. So it can lead to the escalation within Russian society because of propaganda, because Putin is telling everyone that, oh, it's West hates us, it's our enemy. He wants us to kneel and, surrender, but we are strong, we will be strong again, we will be great again, etc., etc. It's propaganda. But what happens in fact is the economy will not be able to function properly very soon. It will be unable to produce, it will be unable to finance the war, because the main thing is to finance the war, also the finance of defenders. It's crucial. If we are not helped, if we're not financed, if we're not given the weapons and some very serious financial aid and humanitarian aid, Ukraine will be very difficult. We will resist, but it will be more difficult. More casualties, more people killed, more people suffered, So it's very important. In every war, key thing is territory and money. You don't have money, you cannot finance the war. War stops. Finish. So we want him to be unable to finance the war. That's it. So for every country in the world, it's important to understand that just sitting and waiting and saying nothing and being like trying to be far away from the problem, is not right, because your contribution into the end of this war might be huge. Anything, I would say and repeat, every voice counts, every dollar counts, every single boycott counts. Boycott Russians, brands, money, oil, exports, imports, boycott them close the ports and airspace for them like Europe did. It will be a great contribution to the end of the war. The Sunni countries will cut off the oxygen pipe for Putin's dictatorship, to his fascist regime. The sooner the war will come to an end. It's a simple logics, nothing else.
This is okay. I say what I read in Indonesian social media. Yes. In social media, normally they have what they call global influencer. Yes. So they are social influencer, political influencer, and global analysts. And some of them say that what happened now with the economic embargo, economic sanction to Russian is actually make it Russia stronger, because that's what happened in the social media. Yes. And of course, Indonesia should be more careful. That's what I said. Careful to take a stand, because Russia with their oil and gas has still more powerful. That's also with coal. That's what I read. That's number one. And number two, today is actually what happened there is also influenced our economy. So the last 2 years is about virus, COVID-19. But today, Indonesia, everything is pricey. The oil, gas, and wheat. And Indonesia also just introduced what they call the social assistance, BLU, meaning it's giving to every family some short assistance from the country. What I'm trying to say is actually what happened there. It feels now by Indonesian people. And of course, I think in the next coming weeks, they will be more interested into what happened there in Europe, in Russia, and how we can end the war, the negotiation process, and since you are the ambassador, how optimistic you are in the end of the game or the negotiation process.
I would compare this to this, for example. Okay, to stop the war, to prevent the world economy from crisis, yes, we have to find the real reason for that, and a real problem, key problem there, and to resolve it as soon as possible. So no problem, no crisis. The problem is a crisis around the problem. So if we look at this point, the problem is war. For example, you might know, you might not, but there is a fact that 95, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 95 vessels, ship, full of grains, of wheat, of everything, are being blocked by Russian military force in the Black Sea. So 95 full of grains, full of wheat, full of everything, cannot leave the port of Odessa because they're blocked. They will be endangered by Russian military ship, right? Perhaps this is something that should be delivered to Indonesia. So what should we do? We should stop the war, right? How can we stop the war? Now you make your treatment. I explained already my position. If we just stand and wait, it will not help of ending up the war. If you don't want to impose sanctions because of whatever reasons, you can do anything else, something, I don't know what, but just waiting and keeping silence is not the instrument of ending the war.
No, in Indonesia, it's not keeping silence.
No, I mean
but there is a pro-con.
No, I'm talking about generally about the world, about every country. If you just wait, it doesn't work. We should do something, right? And not just like, resolution of UN resolution is enough. Not enough.
Not enough.
It doesn't work like this. We should unblock the ways. You can influence the Putin somehow directly in bilateral talks. Say, guys, you know, you blocked our wheat, you blocked our corn, you blocked our palm oil, which is exported to Europe from, you know, from there. You are influencing our economy. So it's not basically, it's not the war that influences the economy of Indonesia or other countries. It's Russia that blocks everything, that influences the economy of every country in the world now. Yeah. So, yes. Yeah. So, you know, we should put the end to this. And the sooner the better. I would say again, you have for example, something organism which receives oxygen, food, water, I don't know, like toys and wine and something. Yeah. And you are happy. Then something is cut down, but you still have water and oxygen. Even if you cut down the water, you still can live for some time, for a long time, and still breathe. But if you leave everything here, but you cut down the oxygen, he will surrender immediately, because that's what the Western world, the democratic world, humankind is trying to do to Putin. Just let him see what will happen to Russia if he doesn't stop killing Ukraine. That's it.
Since you mentioned about what the Western world, that's happened with NATO playing role very close with Ukraine, and Indonesia is big far. My country is big far. It's different regions. It become more important in the media because of Indonesia now is the presidency of G20.
Yes.
It's prestigious institute, but unlucky now we have this type of problem and world problems.
Yes.
And Indonesia is a big country, but not normal to playing bigger role than their size. What's your comment?
I think that Indonesia is a great country, and Indonesia is growing into the global power now. Indonesia, not only the regional leader now, but as it showed during the presidency in G20, Indonesia is turning into global power, and it's good. And I was very happy about the schedule, like the agenda of the G20 meetings and summits. It was great. It is great. But now what we see is, first, I truly believe, that superpowers or global leaders, which are many, maybe G20 is just an example. It's global leaders. Right? Yeah. They don't only have the privilege of being leaders, like privilege of coming together and discuss this and that issues, of deciding the destinies of the world, but they also have duties to defend peace, security, and development, sustainable development of the world. That's what your power brings: duty, responsibility. It is very important that every country who are the global influencer, G20 is what will do. I should be responsible for peace, security, for energy security, for all these big issues in the world. It's collective responsibility. And it's not just about talking, it's about doing something, right? This one thing. And another thing, you say G20. I think G20 is will never be the same. It will never be working in the regime in pace that was planned because of Russia, not because of the war. Because of Russia.
I think I'm going to take some question and answers from the floor. I will give to Pak Agustan or Pak Jarod. Dr. Agustan or Dr. Jarod will ask some questions.
You say directly or in written in chat. Okay. I'll try to. Sound is not very clear.
Pak Jarod, you going to ask some questions?
No.
I will ask to my YouTube chat, YouTube live. Okay. Do I will see my YouTube. Oh. Should we be live on YouTube? So
No problem.
so we can have this. Can you push? Yes. Hujan. So you think that Indonesia with greater power have a greater responsibility? That is Spider-Man. Meaning, yeah, Spider-Man said,
I didn't say Spider-Man. I mean that all global powers, global leaders have powers to decide and have the privilege.
Yeah.
Also, they have responsibility. That's what
That's responsibility. Yeah, yeah. So because Indonesia really not have this type of responsibility. Previously, as a non-bloc, that was probably 50 years ago. And this type of G20, it's really like the global leader. We thought that we will become the global mediator, but I don't think Indonesia have the opportunity. It's like what people in Europe can do or Turkey in this type.
I would not agree with you. I think that now I will say it openly to the people who want to listen. I think that it might be the unique historical chance for Indonesia to become really great and really a leader worldwide, a peacekeeper. Yeah, it's not about. I'm not talking about the like how many missiles we have.
Yeah.
And but you are the leader for ASEAN, for this region, and you are one of the leaders like India, like China, like Japan, like Brazil, like many other countries in the world. You're a leader, one of the leaders, and you have all the historical chance to lead the world to end this war as soon as possible, as G20 chairman, president.
Because for this type of mediation, normally it's not about, of course, about not how many missiles that you have, it's about your person, the trusted person for both sides. You need
take the lead of the leaders to come together and discuss. Take the lead. Take, like someone's voice should be first in G20. Someone. It could be anyone. Just leaders come, sit down. Extraordinary. I don't know. I'm not going to lecture anyone, but like call the extraordinary summit of G20.
I hope that our president will listen to this. It's also other global leaders listen to this, that there is need a person to take a lead.
Someone
need to take initiative. Doesn't have to need to have a big baggage, but someone.
It might not be the number one economy or number two economy, number three economy, anything. But I mean, the summit of world leaders, someone, I expect someone to say this, speak this out. And if we have the extraordinary summit of G20 with one question on the agenda, how to stop the war immediately, as soon as possible, it might work.
Yeah.
This is only platform that might work now in today's world, because UN, I mentioned already, is not a platform. It doesn't work. It's just dead end. So the only one is G20, not G7 even, but G20.
And not G20, it's actually a person, the real leaders. You need someone within the G20 who can communicate with the both sides, right?
It's not the need. I'm not trying to lecture anyone. I'm not trying to give advice, because people in leaders of G20 countries are wise and experienced people with much more experience than me. I'm not going to give them advice. It's my hope from my heart to end the war. And as I see, if we talk about a multilateral format, the only platform that might work is G20 at present. Or we should create another platform, which will take time. But this will, we don't have time for that. We don't have time to wait till November summit of, I think that before November, the war will be finished. Yeah, I believe in this.
So multilateral, but what happened to bilateral? Meaning French President Macron can speak to Putin and also speak to Zelensky, because you need only one person that have trust from both sides, can communicate and agree, and we can have better features.
Again, I understand that there can be bilateral instruments, but what I don't believe is that Putin can trust anyone. And
from German, France, Turkey.
And I don't think he can be trusted also in bilateral level. That's why multilateral level need. Or if you communicate on bilateral level, it's not about trusting. It's not about like sitting down. He understands only one language. Strong. Who is stronger? Only this. So if anyone calls Putin and say, guy, you know, let's not do it like in a nice manner. Just stop it. Stop fighting. Otherwise, we'll have problems there, all of us, and you too. Like, you know, tete-a-tete. This might work, but nicely, like, let's sit down and talk. Please do not, blah, blah, blah. It's like nothing. It doesn't happen. Did you see that Macron talked with Putin many times?
Yep.
Do you see any sort of any kind of result? I don't see. Or on the contrary, they just regrouping. They're trying to attack the eastern part of Ukraine and everything. Nothing happens. So do we need these talks, like all these discussions for what?
So but since I think it's bilateral more effective, but it's multilateral, collaborative effort, it's more difficult to organize.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But what?
But Indonesia I agree with you. Now I change my mind.
No, bilateral. You see, if you talk about this, here are the leaders of the countries.
Yes.
And here's the Putin.
Yep.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It will take time.
Yes.
And discussions and endless all these dialogues and all this stuff. But when you sit down, all of them, sit down there and say, we decide now. You will not leave the room before we decide upon the end of the war. That might be more useful, but still, I don't believe Putin will participate in any sort of negotiations like this, in any format. I don't believe he will go to G20 even in November, if he's still alive. I don't believe in this, because like being a war criminal, being real like a monster in today's world. I mean, this will be the humiliation to the platform, to the gathering, to the people participating in this. I mean, can you imagine Hitler after the war, like if he's alive, to participate in any gatherings? It would be humiliation. People would not would not shake hands and say, "Well, he's like a not human being." Who will shake hands with Hitler if it is like no one? He's a criminal. You know, that's why I don't believe he will participate in any gathering, except like for bilateral, maybe talks, maybe no, I don't know.
Wow, my perspectives, I become more pessimistic about what happened.
You shouldn't be pessimistic. It's history. You want to know really what happens to the in Ukraine now? You go back to 1939 or maybe 1935. When Hitler, like 33, he became the chancellor.
Yeah, in 1932.
32. So he became chancellor of Germany. So starting from this point, a lot of similarities. Like the occupation of Austria, the annexation of Austria, and attack on Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, then on Poland, then on the Soviet Union, then all this blah, blah, blah propaganda. And it's like copy paste. Same reasons, same stories, same propaganda, same lies.
And was 80 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
More. Oh.
Yeah, 1932.
83 or something. Even more.
Wow. Wow, I'm a bit speechless because I really expect last week when we organized the meeting with the former ambassador, we thought that there will be a closer negotiation process. Indonesia should play more important role. Indonesia should pay attention to what happened in Europe. But now, a week later, we have what's the economic consequence. And bit disappointed on the negotiation process, and then more realistic on the G20 issue. Should Indonesia play bigger role or play his card into this presidency or no? Or what your comments? And
I cannot imagine that he comes to the G20 summit. It's my feeling. I cannot imagine this. And as for negotiations, all right, we talked about these negotiations in Turkey. It will depend on two factors: whether Putin is ready to give the order to stop bombings and killings. If he does, negotiations are possible. And the result of the negotiations, the success of negotiations, will depend on the demands of Russian side. Because we know our demands. And what the demands of him: to surrender, to write what? To give up weapons, to give up to give up Crimea, to give up Donbass. It's never going to happen.
But I think it's his interest and your country's interest is also quite clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So number one demand from President Putin was neutrality of Ukraine. So that's what number one. And actually number two, number three, it's less important. Donbass, Crimea, so the neutrality. So the answer of neutrality, which I understand was answered by President Zelensky, it's probably given.
No. The answer, again, as I heard it, as I interpreted it, as for neutrality.
Yeah, neutrality.
Yeah, as for neutrality is, but remember, the question of neutrality,
meaning not going to NATO or not going to European.
It came after the 3 or 4 or 5 rounds of the previous negotiations, where the demands were absolutely stupid and ridiculous. Neutrality, as I understand the words of my president, is not impossible, but we will need, one, the serious guarantees of our security. We need security guarantees not from Russia, but from many, like from G20, say, or many or more countries. Not from G20. Security guarantees, meaning if we remain outside NATO and Russia attacks us again, then the countries who guaranteed our security will immediately join and help us to resist and to fight back. That's what we wanted.
But then it's become more difficult issue because this is not two-party negotiation, it become multi-party negotiation.
Sure.
Meaning they need to come to the table, negotiation table.
I mean,
because now you have only two-party, meaning
look at this.
NATO needs to be presented to the table.
What?
NATO
what?
NATO need to be presented? Because you say it's only Russia, Ukraine, and then Turkey.
Turkey is just a mediator.
Yeah. But then since you need some guarantee,
again,
and they are not on the table.
Can you imagine? The country attacked Ukraine, attacked us, killing people, destroying the country. Do we believe that Putin just promises this will never happen again and we will not attack you if you promise that you will not be NATO member? We are not promised to be NATO member. We don't belong to NATO. We don't give him perspective. Why would he talk about NATO? I mean, neutrality is something that can be approved by the people of Ukraine, referendum, and then approved by the parliament of Ukraine, passed, and then signed by the president of Ukraine. So this is a process, and we do not say that this is impossible. But what we haven't said will again be like sitting and preparing for the next attack? No, we need the guarantees from many countries, direct security guarantees. Otherwise, it's no point of discussing.
Then it becomes difficult issue because now the party was Russia and Ukraine.
Yes.
Since you need more guarantee and how the other party can make their concession on their agreement.
So they demand us to be neutral. We will demand Russia to get the security guarantees. Only under this condition we will start the process of neutrality. I think this mechanism should be like this.
Okay.
The security guarantees must work. Otherwise, we are constantly under threat from Russia. And this war proves that Russia cannot be trusted. Never. But I think Putin is not afraid of NATO. He never been afraid of NATO. Before 2014, Russia and NATO were cooperating closely and on huge scale. Sort of military exercises, joint military operation, joint project, arms and visits and exchanges. He is not afraid of NATO at all. And look at the position of NATO. They just stepped aside. NATO is stepped aside, doing nothing to help Ukraine to close the skies or something. So where is the threat from NATO? If they say, oh, NATO is our concern. If NATO was really the concern of Putin, NATO would have established the no-fly zone over Ukraine 3 or 4 weeks ago. And they don't even try. So is NATO a threat to Russia if they didn't even participate in the resistance of, yeah? So who is liar?
So your country feel betrayed by NATO?
My country?
Betrayed by NATO?
No, I would not use we are grateful. I'm not criticizing NATO. Okay. I'm not criticizing Indonesia. I'm not criticizing no one. You all have your positions. You all have your principles. You all have your ways of doing things.
No, in Indonesia it's actually 50-50.
No. I'm telling that I'm not criticizing no one. I can just express my wishes. I can express a bit of disappointment of that. It's not betrayed or not. It's very strong wording, but yeah, I can speak about disappointment. They could have done a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, no-fly zone could save thousands and thousands of lives. This is what I'm concerned about. Saving lives. Every life is precious.
Mr. Ambassador, what you think you can expect from Indonesia, the country that you give to us about the poem of Khairil Anwar, about the Aku. Aku is Aku Binatang Jalan, very cool. That's another one is Kerawang Bekasi. Both poem that you was given as present is actually a metaphor of a people or a country that really try to defend this country. It's better die than to see his country captured by other countries. And that is the essence of the Khairil Anwar poem, which is written, I think, 70 or 80 years ago.
Yeah.
What you expect from the country that people in this country read that poem, Sajak Aku, from elementary school, we read that, and also the country that you say about the pidato of Bung Tomo in Surabaya.
Yes.
What you expect? And G20 also.
What I expect of G20?
Indonesia presidency as a G20 and today Indonesia.
First of all, I am really proud and saya dihormati bekerja di Republic of Indonesia. I'm really proud of that. I'm honored because the country that has so long history, so deep culture, so great variety of cultures and languages, and which actually expressed in Bhinneka Tunggal Ika on the Garuda Pancasila on the emblem, and the country that had not only Khairil Anwar, it was only Bung Tomo, General Sudirman, General Hugeng Iman Santoso, Ratu Joyoboyo Ronggowarsito from Java, then Prabu Siliwangi from Panjajaran, from Kingdom of Panjajaran. I have a glorious history of Majapahit defeating Mongolian invasion, which no one in the world could repeat. You were the one and only unique country that defeated Mongolian state. We have the glorious history of Sriwijaya with King Erlanga, with King Udayana, yeah. That were developing in the same developing and expanding in the same time when the cradle of our civilization, Kievan Rus. So we have so many heroes, so many heroic stories, so many really many similarities actually. So you are proud people who I think in this region, I think it's only two countries that really gained independence fighting, not just being given as a gift, but fighting in fight. And this was a very very hard war, and I think many people still can remember this, being kids or maybe listening to the stories of the fathers and grandfathers. Yeah. I also would remind us all, in the very hard time for Indonesia, 1945 to 1949, it was exactly Ukrainian representative in the United Nations who stood up and spoke out, despite the position of many strong economies and strong forces of the world, strong countries of the world. Despite this, he stood up and he really, our delegation of Ukraine, for 4 years, working a lot, signing, preparing resolutions, preparing letters, communicating, persuading, etc., until Indonesia became the equal member of the United Nations. We shouldn't forget this too, I think. So what I expect, of course, I expect the strong position on Russia. I repeat, it's not the matter of neutrality or non-allied movement. It's a matter of the war and peace. The more decisive and the more serious, the more strict we, not the right word, the stronger we are in condemning Russian aggression, the sooner the war will come to an end. The stronger we are and the firmer we are in imposing sanctions and limitations on the aggressor, the sooner the war will end. Again, I'm not lecturing anyone, I'm not giving advices, but it's my concept of ending the war with Russia. Sanctions and the condemnation of Russia as aggressor. So, of course, I hope also that we receive some humanitarian aid from the Indonesian government. Hope this will happen. As for G20, I think I mentioned it already. G20 is I would say really, frankly, is the most authoritative gathering worldwide. And with the widest representation, I would say, because like G7 and everything, but representation is not as narrow as in G20. And G20 is really a gathering that can represent all the regions of the world, all the continents, all the social systems, democratic and non-democratic, obviously. So, but they can decide upon basically upon the destinies of the world economy and world everything, right? They can make decisions that will lead the humankind to the greater good, to the development and sustainability, or to the wrong ways, I don't know, to crisis maybe. So decisions of the G20 are crucial to ensure the peace, security, and development of this world. So I do hope that G20 is making decisions very carefully. And I do hope that, it's my, okay, I cannot, again, I'm giving advice. No, I hope that G20 will take measures on the Russian aggression as soon as possible. Take serious measures that will bring the war to an end. Again, I repeat, we want this war to stop, but we cannot stop it because we didn't start it. We just cannot stop it because we are under attack. So G20 has authority, wisdom, experience, and influence to put the war, put the end to the Russian aggression. That's my hope. Only one, peace and security of Ukraine, now, and of the world.
Yes, peace and security for Ukraine. It's also peace and security
For the world, absolutely agree with it.
Then and Merdeka atau Mati, it's
Merdeka
our symbol, our cry. That's what happened 70, 80 years ago. It's also now what happened in Ukraine, and also a symbol of the country. And the other for our country, for G20, greater power, take a greater responsibility, and we have to act now. I think I will end my conversation in discussion with you, Mr. Ambassador, His Excellency Vasyl Hamianin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Can I add 2 minutes more?
Yes, for closing.
It's interesting that even the Hari Kemerdekaan of Ukraine and of Indonesia are very close. So in August, and spotlight. And another thing is, you know, in your anthem, you sing, if I'm not mistaken, bangunlah jiwanya, bangunlah badannya untuk Indonesia Raya, ya?
Yeah, Bangun Indonesia, yeah.
In my anthem, we sing that we will sacrifice our souls and we sacrifice our bodies for our freedom. So this is the illustration of Merdeka. We'll give up our souls and bodies and lives for our freedom. Merdeka atau mati.
I know, but I will need to have one question.
Yes, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Because for interactive activities. Good evening, Mr. Ambassador. My name is Fadel Zuliano and Gunawan from Indramayu, West Java. I want to ask, why does Indonesia want to invade Russian President Vladimir Putin to Athens despite being urged by Western countries to refuse Putin present in Bali? If Russia present at the G20 summit, then Ukraine must be as present at the event for peace negotiation with Russia and Ukraine. It's only one question.
Yeah, my answer is simple. I don't know why, because I'm not the Indonesian government. And I repeat, I respect Indonesian president very much and the government. They are wise, they're experienced, they have a lot of mechanisms, and they have their own position. And so I don't know why it is invited. But if he's invited, and will it be good also to invite Ukrainian president? I mean, I would repeat it again, right? This summit is happening in November. We don't have time till November. We do not have time. Ukraine is bleeding and burning for 40 days. If just we sit and wait for six months more.
Winter
I mean,
under zero.
So I'm not I mean, how can I discuss something that will happen in 6 months when we have the danger of for our country every minute? We are sitting and talking, and now people are dying in Ukraine of anything, of dehydration, children, of cold, of diseases, of lack of medicines, and just of shootings, you know, every minute. 6 months.
Biro, I have one more question.
Yes, please. Yes.
This is related to you.
Yes.
What is Ukrainian embassy in Indonesia doing for countering false narrative and Russian propaganda here in Indonesia? Because in terms of propaganda, social media, I think that's what 50-50, maybe my rough guess. I do not know the real presence on what really happened in the social media.
I can answer this question from the other end of it. What I know is because, again, I'm grown up in the Soviet Union, I know what happened during the last 30 years, especially during the last 20 years. Russia has spent billions of dollars for propaganda worldwide. All this media, Russia Today, all this stuff, they employed teams of media people who were working and spreading and bots and buzzers and all this stuff in social media. It's billions of dollars worldwide. That's why the influence of Russia was so big in media environment. To be honest, we don't have such huge amounts of money to spend to deliver truth, right? And now we are trying to create counter narratives and counter propaganda, to tell the truth about what happens in Ukraine and about the essence of Russian lies, because it's very obvious the propaganda is always based on lies. And it was in Soviet times, it was in Nazi Germany, it is in Russia. So yes, we're doing something. We are communicating, we are cooperating with media people. We are giving interviews. We push out the narratives in the social media. We try to spread it and to disseminate. And please, if you go to the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram of the Embassy of Ukraine in Jakarta, and to my personal Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, you will get a lot of information in Bahasa, including, or in English, about what's going on in Ukraine in reality, and the links to for example, to the Muslim people of Ukraine, to the Muslim leaders of Ukraine, to the people who just give the impression of what's going on in Ukraine with Muslim people, with our brothers and sisters, or what was going on in Crimea in previous years. What was the history of Crimea? Maybe what was the story of Chechen wars? And then many people, I hope, will understand that Putin is not the protector of Muslims. He is a murderer of Muslims, of Slavic, of Ukrainians, of other nations. And this will, I think, bring the hurrah narrative to an end very soon. Now I see the social media supported by Russian embassy, and it is like boats. It's like hundreds, thousands of bots which don't have any background, just something. Is it the method we use? No, we don't use this. We never will use this, because truth is much more powerful than the technical boats and all this stuff. So truth will always be last. How do you answer? We have the lake. Imagine a good Danau, yes, very clean, yes. And what, Segera?
And Danau Segera.
Danau Segera, and bersih. Yeah, with potable water air minum. And then it's clear, it's so beautiful, it's so deep, right? And then you take the glass of minyak tanah, and just splash it on the surface. What do you have? You'll have the brown or brownish or like dirty surface, right? And then you look from outside. You don't see the water, but you see the color, which is like ugly and kotor, right? And you don't know. This is propaganda. Now you tube, like, or use your hand or anything just to destroy this film, very thin and very dirty film. And you'll see the beauty of the water. You see the cleanness of the water, all the truth. This is about propaganda. You want to see the truth? Don't believe from the first few seconds. Just compare this, and then you understand which one is true, which one is not, which is fake, which is not, which is provocation, which is not. It's clear, very clear. Just look, try to see the clean water of the lake. Don't be cheated. Don't be misled by the thin film of dirty oil on the surface. That's it. That's my message.
We need to do digging, more research to understand it is a fact or a hoax.
Maybe not digging, just tube,
and then you see.
Very easy.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, His Excellency Mr. Vasyl Hamianin, for coming and give your insight.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm honored.
And so we hope that the negotiation process, the peace resolution will happen soon in your country.
Inshallah.
We have our deepest sympathies and condolence. We understand Indonesia has experienced those stuff, but it's long time ago, our deepest. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador.
Pray for Ukraine, pray for Indonesia, pray for the world.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih. Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita sampai di session terakhir. Ini adalah yang kesekian kalinya kami mengundang Bapak Duta Besar. Sebelumnya kami selalu melakukannya lewat offline di YouTube ataupun Zoominar di IABIE channel. Ini pertama kalinya karena kita melakukan dengan podcast, dan terima kasih kepada His Excellency Vasyl Hamianin untuk hadir di acara ini. Mungkin kita juga akan mengundang para duta besar yang lain untuk memberikan pandangannya untuk berbagai topik ataupun topik-topik lain. Saya ucapkan terima kasih. Sampai ketemu di acara selanjutnya. Untuk itu silahkan like and subscribe ke video ini atau channel ini. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore dan salam sejahtera bagi kita.